What's up, YouTube? It's time again, man. About to jump back into those ghostly reacts. You know what I'm saying? This right here, though, is four scary true Craigslist stories. Not necessarily ghost stories, but it's like, you know what I'm saying, still creepy shit. Hey, man, somebody told me to do this because it's some real stories. And, hey, you know what I'm saying? Your boy down for that. Let's get it. Let's go, though, man. See what's going on in this. I ain't going to use the headphones because it's storytelling time. Let's go.
When I was 17 and looking to buy my first car, I was on Craigslist every single day. I wasn't looking for anything fancy, just a beater car that could get me from point A to point B. My budget was $3,000 at most, so the cars I was looking at were no newer than '03, '04. I found an ad one day for a 2002 two-door Honda Accord. It was listed for $2,000, and the mileage was under 80,000, so right away I knew I wanted to check it out. The person who posted the ad lived a few towns over from us, a 20-minute drive on the highway. I convinced my mom to drive me out there to view the car after conversing with the guy over the phone. Originally, I texted him asking for details, but he ended up calling me. He sounded basically normal over the phone, actually rather polite. He answered some questions I had about the car and whatnot, and when he asked for my name and I told him Dan, he said, "Dan, what a great name. That's my name too." I laughed because it was the polite thing to do, but I just found it to be such an odd comment. Like everything about it, it almost sounded like he forgot his name was Dan because of the pause between "what a great name" and "that's my name." It just sounded sketchy. Nevertheless, everything else about the call went fine, so the next day, my mom drove me to the address the guy gave me. Getting off the highway and onto the streets, right away we agreed this was a trashy-looking neighborhood. Bars on windows, graffiti under bridges. I was hoping the guy's place wouldn't seem equally sketchy.
No, don't do it. Please don't do it.
But as we pulled up, it was. It wasn't a standard property like the rest in the area. The entrance to the property was between two houses. It wasn't a driveway, just some low-key road that led into an inlet with two more houses. Every house was crammed between other houses and buildings.
Man.
But there I saw it, the Honda Accord, which was in, I guess, what you'd call the driveway for this house. My mom and I stepped up to the front door and rang the bell. We didn't know if it rang or not because we couldn't hear anything, so I knocked. One of the windows opened out of nowhere, and a man's voice said, "Come inside, the door's unlocked." I went to open the door, and my mom...
First of all, why the fuck, if you going to buy a car, you gonna go inside somebody's house if they tell you to come in? You know what I'm saying? And I can tell you right now, hey, if I go, first of all, I wouldn't even go buy nobody used car unless it's an old classical car, which I've been thinking about lately. But we lose two lives, yours and mine. Because I ain't never, listen to me, I ain't never not strapped. Ever. You hear me? Never, ever. So we lose two lives, yours and mine. For real, too.
stopped me and whispered, "Are you sure you want to go in there?" I said, "Yeah." I let ourselves in, expecting to be greeted by Dan. The inside of this place was kind of dark. Not a lot of natural light came in through the minimal windows. "Hello?" I said. "Yeah, over here," the voice called. It was a deeper voice than I heard on the phone. "Dan?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. I began walking through the little kitchen, closer to his voice. My mom grabbed my shoulder and stopped me. She whispered in my ear, "We're leaving." The man's voice now came from beyond this door at the end of the kitchen. He called up, "Down here, we can do the transaction here." My mom and I left the house in a hurry. As we were hurrying to my car, a lady at the next building over called to us. She came hurrying down from her front porch, warning us not to go in there. Then she asked why we were there, and we explained that I came to buy a car, but that he was calling us into his basement. The woman said that she's been concerned about that man living next door for months, that she thinks he's up to no good, and that he constantly has random cars pull up in the driveway in the middle of the night. We asked if his name was Dan. She said she wasn't sure, but that she vaguely remembered the guy introducing himself as Mike. She told us to just get far away from the house immediately, and so we did. It's disturbing to know my mom and I may have been murdered in that basement if we went down there. Like, how could we do a transaction before even viewing the car or agreeing on anything? And her question, why in the basement? The whole thing screams trap. I don't know what else he could have wanted to do to us, more specifically me, in that basement.
Hey, man, listen to me. Why in the fuck would you go in anybody's house? I'm gonna say it again, man. Don't do that shit. If you can't meet somewhere in a mutual territory, then don't do the transaction. And if the car running, tell him to drive, meet you halfway. Meet somewhere mutual or neutral, however you want to say the shit. You know what I'm saying? So everybody be on safe terms. But hey, I go somewhere like that. Hey, you trapped with me, basically. I can tell you that right now. That's just the way I think. Cause I'm gonna have like two of my partners with me. Everybody strapped and loaded. Hey, so if you try some shit like that with me, you the one trapped, not me. That's you. Hey, don't do it. Please don't do it. For real.
This actually happened to my best friend Chris. His family had just bought a new TV and they were thinking of just throwing their old one away. Chris's older brother John suggested to their dad Rick that they could sell the old TV on Craigslist to make some easy cash. Since the family never used Craigslist, John said he could set up the ad for him, since John's girlfriend used Craigslist before. So John put up an image of the TV with the description, used 55-inch Samsung 4K TV for $200. He also put Rick's phone number so if anyone was interested, they could just call or text him. A week later, Rick got a call from a guy who introduced himself as Toby, and he said he was interested in the TV and wanted to know if he could come by the house at 10 o'clock that same night to pick it up. Rick said sure, and he sent Toby his address. Later that night, while Rick, Chris, and John waited outside the house for Toby to come so they could help him load the TV into his car, Rick got a call from Toby, and he said he wouldn't be able to make it to the house because he was almost out of gas. So he and Rick agreed to meet in the parking lot of a Circle K. After Rick got off the phone, him, Chris, and John loaded the TV in the back of Rick's pickup truck, and they took off to the Circle K where Toby said he was at, which was 15 miles away from the house. When they got there, they pulled up in a parking space next to the gas pumps, where Toby was filling up his car, a black Nissan Altima.
Now that's more like it. Hey, at least they had a service station, you know what I'm saying? Hey, might be in the middle of nowhere, but at least you somewhere that might have cameras, you know what I'm saying? If something happened. And if you're a female, don't do the shit at all. Don't even worry about it. Don't even fuck with Craigslist, period. And definitely don't meet nobody. Period. If you're a woman, don't do it. Real.
A few minutes later, a tall, heavy-set bald guy with a goatee walked over to Rick's truck and said he was Toby. He told Rick that since the TV was big, it would most likely not be able to fit in his car, so he suggested that they could just follow him back to his house, and Rick agreed with him. After a few minutes of driving
Okay. Click, clack. Hello. Let's go.
on the main highway, they got onto a back road, which looked sketchy because there was nothing but trees on either side of the road and it was filled with potholes. Toby texted Rick and said his house was at the end of the road. When they got to the end, the place that was supposedly Toby's house didn't even look like a house at all. It looked more like a tall, abandoned building. When they got out of the truck, Toby told them to untie the TV from the back so they could start unloading it. After they untied the TV, they turned around and saw three large men emerge from the back of the car, and they all pulled out guns, including Toby. They threatened to kill them if they didn't give them all they had on them. Rick, Chris, and John didn't hesitate, so they all gave the guys their wallets and phones, and they obviously took the TV too. After taking everything they had, the guys got back in the car and drove away. When Rick, Chris, and John got home, Chris and John told their mom everything that went down, and Rick called the cops and told them the whole story, and even gave them the license plate number for the car since he memorized it. To this day, Chris's family never heard of any arrests being made. That was the one and only time the family ever used Craigslist.
See what I'm saying? Hey, man. That shit is crazy right there, man. Like, wow. They all could have been murdered, man. Like, I'm telling you, man. It would have been bad. Like, a situation like that, see, like I was telling y'all earlier, the way I think, I'm never not, I mean, I'm always strapped. Like, always got my shit. And I'm always have somebody with me that got their shit too. You know what I'm saying? So that would have been a bad situation as soon as they came out with a gun. It all would have went south like ASAP. I mean, I'm talking about shooting and but it would have been crazy. Like, yeah, it'd have been bad. That's why nah.
Back in 2012, when Craigslist was more popular, I'd say, my house was broken into and robbed. A bunch of things were stolen, like two TVs, my Xbox 360, all of my video games, my hockey skates, and whatever stray cash I had laying around. I had the police come investigate the house, but nothing that would help track the perpetrator, including fingerprints, was found. I gave them a list of everything that was stolen, but the cops in my county usually suck, and they didn't help at all. Now I had to replace everything
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
that was stolen. Believe it or not, the most costly thing to replace would be the video game collection. But I was starting with the replacement TVs. I went to Craigslist, and there was an ad that was posted earlier that day for a 40-inch Panasonic TV for a low price. Panasonic was the brand I had, so I contacted the seller and drove to his house that night. He let me into his disgusting home. It reeked, and the stains in the carpets and general messiness of the place didn't help. He brought me to this back room where the TV was. I examined it, and it was the exact TV that I had in my living room that was stolen. Then I started to look around the room, and I noticed another smaller TV that was tucked in the corner of the room, as well as an Xbox. The smaller TV looked exactly like my other TV that was stolen. I went to pick up the Xbox and checked the bottom of it for the specific long scratch in the case that mine had. And there it was. That was my Xbox. That was all of my shit. I looked at the guy, who had a confused look on his face, and I said, "Dude, you're the piece of shit that stole my stuff." His expression changed. He played dumb and had an angry tone now. He told me to get out of his house and lifted his shirt, exposing his gun holster. I live in Texas, so he likely had a license to carry. I left the house and called the cops. They arrived to the scene, but the man wouldn't let them in. He insisted they get a warrant and claimed that I was harassing him. I told the cops about my police report and the robbery and everything. They said they wouldn't be able to get a search warrant until the next day. I regretted not getting pictures while inside the room, and I wasn't thinking clearly in the moment.
Right.
I was furious and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
That night, while I was getting ready for bed and doing research about search warrants, lawyers, and different possible outcomes to the situation, I heard a window break downstairs. Immediately, I knew it was him. Following my instincts, I climbed out of my window and down to the small ledge under my window.
I pray to God. I pray to you, God, that somebody steal all my shit. I go to their house and see my shit, and they come back to my house. Please, God, let that happen. Please. I know I don't ask for a lot, but let that shit happen. For real.
There, I jumped to the ground and ran to my neighbor's house. My neighbor let me in while I called the police. They arrived within 10 minutes. I handed the police my spare house key I had hidden on the side of the house, and they investigated the house again, guns drawn this time, and inside they found him, hidden under my bed. If that's not terrifying, I don't know what is. When I said earlier that cops usually suck, yeah, this was the one time I actually loved cops here. And yes, it was the man who posted the Craigslist ad. He actually broke into my house to kill me that night, as he had his gun on him, and why else would he be hiding under my bed? That doesn't sit well with me, even to this day.
Right.
He was found guilty of breaking and entering with intent to commit murder beyond a reasonable doubt, and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Even still, I moved to a new town and changed my number. I tried to strip any possible trail that could lead that man to me when he gets out. And I'm sure he's out by now for alleged good behavior. That's the part that scares me the most. All of this, over less than $1,000 worth of items.
That's crazy.
It actually makes me sick.
Yeah.
I think Craigslist is one of the most dangerous places on the internet you could go.
Yeah. Yeah, real talk though. That's pretty dangerous. Craigslist is pretty fucking dangerous, man. Like, I feel some type of way too, man. But nah. Yeah, he probably just a kid though, you know what I'm saying? Early 20s or something, so he probably just is afraid, but yeah, man, don't, man. You talking about me, boy, man. I'm one of them ones, boy. Hey, man. Motherfucking okay, correct.
I once answered an ad posted on Craigslist for a free mini fridge under the free stuff section. I was setting up what people would call a man cave in my basement, and I needed a mini fridge for under the bar to store beers and other drinks inside. I checked the address on maps, and the house was apparently waterfront, sitting over a tall cliff overlooking a huge lake. The person who was texting me said his name was John, but that he wouldn't be in the house, just his elderly mother. He told me when I got there I'd have to let myself in and go to the far right bedroom for the foyer, as his mom is hard of hearing and she's very slow. I thought for a second, what if instead of me answering this ad, it were a bad person and they totally took advantage of the situation? It sounded almost too easy to rob this old woman's house. Well, I coordinated a time with John to go to his mother's house. Around sunset, and I gotta say, as I pulled up to the long dirt path to the property, seeing that big house sitting at the top of the hill with the sun setting in the background over the cliff, it was beautiful. Before going into that house, I admired the view of the lake below for a couple minutes. Then I texted John that I was there. He repeated his instructions to just let myself in and go to the room to the far right, as his mom would be waiting in the bedroom. He reminded me she's very old and I'd have to do all the lifting myself. I said that's fine. I entered the house through the front door, which was left ajar. Right away I was hit with the smell of cotton. It reminded me of the smell of my grandma's house. I followed his directions and went to the door on the far right, which led me to a narrow hall. The house seemed rather large from first impressions. As I went down this hall, the smell of cotton suddenly shifted to this horrible smell. Literally, it smelled like death, like a rotting animal. I entered the doorway at the end of this hall, and the smell in that room was unbearable. That's because of the dead, rotting corpse on the bed. It was the rotting corpse of an older woman. It looked as though she'd been dead for a week or two.
Hold the fuck up. Hey, man. That shit right there. Oh my God. I cannot wait to hear the outcome to this shit. Like, wow. People is crazy, man.
I wanted to throw up. I suddenly heard a loud, maniacal laughing from upstairs, accompanied with stomping in place. It seemed someone was in a room directly on top of me, simply stomping their feet to scare.
Click, clack. Hello.
And it worked. I ran out of the house to my car, looked at the house one more time, and saw a man at one of the upstairs windows. Then I realized there was another person standing at one of the downstairs windows, both of them wearing face masks, like the same kind of mask you'd wear now for the coronavirus. My phone started blowing up with texts all of a sudden, all of them in capital letters. The first text said ha ha ha, followed by we see you, look at the windows, then a bunch of emojis. The last text I got from him said come back inside, you forgot your fridge. I drove off the property, and while on my way home, I called the police and reported the dead body in the house. After they investigated the house and apparently confiscated the dead body, which had no signs of any stab wounds or bullet holes, police arrived to my house for questioning. I showed them the whole conversation and gave them the phone number, which I warned them was probably a fake number, and I was right. But an officer named Boris told me they'd still be able to trace the number even if it was through some kind of fake number app. So, a week later, I was curious about the status of the case. So I called the police station, but the woman who picked up the phone didn't know any information. That or she didn't care enough to look for me, because in general she was just kind of rude. I never read about or saw anything on the news about an arrest being made regarding this. So to this day, I don't know if the people in that house were caught, or if they were even responsible for that woman's death.
Man. Listen to me. Fuck Craigslist, man. Don't even do it. Don't even worry about it. Unless it's like, man, nah. Because this stuff right here, that's a trap, though. That's like a death trap. Like, you think you're going to get something and then people tricking you in the house. They could have killed that guy. Easily. Probably. Like, and why would you enter a house by yourself? That's what's bothering me, though. Like, common sense. If I don't see you, why the fuck would I enter the house? And then why would they let him come in a dead body and not try to like do something to him? Like it's a game, like it was a joke. That's crazy to me, man. It's very disturbing, man. Like, ain't no telling what it was. You know what I'm saying? Hell, they probably already had done robbed the old lady and just left her there. But yeah, man, that's give me chills for real. Just thinking about it. Not much is like the ghostly stories, but that still give me chills, man. How corrupt and like people think, like how they want to trick people and try to hurt them and stuff like that. Because any of these stories, you never know what could have happened. But that's enough about that, man. I need to get back. I need to get my vibe back, man. I got chills for real. Because I know what would have happened if it was me. Like I told y'all throughout these stories, man, if it was me, I wouldn't be afraid. Honestly, I wouldn't be because I know I got my shit. But I wouldn't be alone. Like going against some shit like that, I'm gonna have like 2, 3 people with me, man. All us strapped. Like what the fuck? Like what's happening? Like what's happening? This trap. Like what's happening? Let's do it. But other than that, man, you know what I'm saying? Hey, man, I don't promote violence. But I'm saying though, if it come to me, that's a different story. But I'm gonna holler at y'all in the next reaction, man. Let's get it. Let's go. Peace. Shit crazy.
Fam, that's what they call me. I promise that